Hi guys, this is Mr. Tan, and today we're looking at hospitality operations, and we're kind of like following on from the previous slides in terms of communication models, but now we're looking at, effective communication, the impact of communication, communication styles, and communication style bias. And communication is just so important. It just goes without saying. We've had these discussions in class, and in terms of accommodation services, they are, or any business, they are absolutely crucial to getting things done in terms of how you communicate to people and how you respond to people and how you react to people can either work in a positive or negative way for your company to be more productive or not productive. So this is very important. So as a starter, do you think you can mind map the different types of communication methods that a manager can use? And which communication method do you believe accounts for 7% of communication, 38% of communication, and 55% of communication? The impact of communication. Research has suggested that face-to-face communication composes of the below three aspects, and they are verbal 7%, 35% tone of the voice, and 55% non-verbal expressions, body language. And again, so when we're looking at communication, don't think of communication as just being a verbal response. We look at the Shannon and Weaver model, and it's communication verbally or in writing or in some context, but it doesn't necessarily take into consideration the tone or the body language. So that needs to be considered as well. There are different communication styles. So Manning, 2010, considered a communication style model. This looked at different communication styles that could be adopted by a salesperson and how a salesperson could adapt to the different styles through being in different zones. So we're going to look at this. Fortrell, 2011, defines communication in a sales context as an act of transmitting verbal and non-verbal information between the buyer and seller. Absolutely true. I mean, having dealt with many companies and dealt with the sales force and the sales directors and gone into different buying situations as well with the sales director and with sales reps, you need to know the non-verbal communication when the sales rep is saying something to a buyer and then the buyer is thinking negatively about what the sales rep has just said. The sales rep has to actually identify and spot that and to be able to change what he's saying to get them to stop thinking negatively. But in the first place, he needs to be able to spot this. This definition represents communication as an exchange process. Absolutely agree with this. It's definitely an exchange process. Adjusting one communication style in order to fit the individual customer needs and preferences is an important element of adaptive selling. You've got to adapt to the situation and the person who you're selling to. Therefore, it is important for salespeople to consider how they sell and communicate, especially with the seller, to give the right message that is interpreted in a favorable way. So, what is a communication style? Individual differences exist and are important. It's a way of thinking and behaving. And differences tend to be stable, developed within the years of 3 to 5. Finite number of styles. And judgments are based on communication styles and how we relate to it. So in terms of like two axes, in terms of a dominance continuum axis, are you going to be a low dominance or are you a high dominance? So where do you fit, or are you somewhere in the middle? So the dominance is a tendency to control or prevail over others. If it's a high dominance, then you want to prevail over others. If it's a low dominance, not necessarily so. So, take charge personally, verbal and non-verbal. So low dominance is more cooperative, egotist, low in assertiveness. And then high dominance really is to give advice freely, initiate demands, more aggressive and assertive. And then on the other axis, we have the social continuum. So this is the amount of control we exert over our emotional responses. So again, we've got high. Do we have, do we express our feelings and we wear our feelings on the heart of our sleeves, as the expression goes? Is it high? Do we really express how we feel? Or is it low in terms of we control our feelings and we're more likely to bottle them up? How exactly is it? So on one axis we've got the social continuum, and on the other axis we've got dominance, high and low dominance. So one's going across the other. So the social continuum is going vertical and the dominance continuum is going horizontal. Again, the social continuum, tendency to enjoy interaction or not. So when we apply this, we're going to apply these 4 styles of communication to these 2 different axes of, social continuum and the dominance continuum. So we've got 4 styles of communication, which includes the emotive, the director, the reflective, and the supportive. So let's have a look at these. But first, if we look at these type of communication styles, what type of communication style do you think you adopt? Are you more emotive? Are you more director? Are you more reflective? Or are you supportive? What type of communication do you adopt? So here we have the axis in terms of sociability going vertical, either high or low sociability, and then dominance going horizontal in terms of low or high dominance. And then we have the emotive style. Now the emotive style is more active, appearance of being busy, social initiative, expresses emotions and opinions, uses keywords, and sociable, spontaneous, stimulating, unstructured, excitable, personally, persuasive, and dynamic. And an example of an emotive communicator can be seen as, and who is this person? You tell me. The director style, appears busy, no time wasting, get to the point, may give the impression of not listening, seems serious and businesslike, prefers to maintain control. And some keywords can be, aggressive, intense, pushy, serious, determined, frank, opinionated, impatient, and bold. Do you know anyone like this? Have you seen anyone like this in your working experience? And a director style communicator, as we see this judge here. Now we've got reflective style. The reflective style now controls emotional expression. Prefers orderliness, expresses measured opinions, so it's very thoughtful, and in terms of what they say and how they say it. Can seem aloof, formal and difficult to get to know. And some key words about this, reflective communication style of person is precise, deliberate, questioning, aloof, kind of scientific, serious, industrious, stuffy. So who do we have here? And then we have a supportive style of communication. So the supportive style communicators typically appear to be quiet and reserved. They are attentive listeners and make decisions in a thoughtful and deliberate manner without the use of power. They may be passive and relaxed, yet sensitive and patient. Some key words for the supportive communication style person: light-hearted, reserved, passive, warm, docile, patient, sensitive, relaxed, compliant, soft-hearted. So again, if you think about those 4 styles, what style do you think you are? Again, if we see this person here, who is this person? Supportive communication style. So, does your communication style match what you assumed it would be? So we need to look at the communication style bias. So the communication style bias, it's a state of mind experienced when we have contact with another person whose communication style is different from our own. If we are aware of how to sell to each other and identify their type, we will be more successful. Absolutely. If we've got to identify the type of communication style someone is adopting, and to be able to read the verbal, the tone, and the non-verbal body language. It's mature, immature traits, which develop. So, developing communication style flexibility, working with emotives. Then, if you're working with emotives, then you need to be enthusiastic. Take time to establish goodwill. Back off the facts and details. Support their opinions and ideas. Ask questions and listen attentively. When you're working with directors and you've identified them, then how do you need to behave? Well, be businesslike. Be efficient, to the point. Be organized. Use facts and figures. Help them to meet their objectives. Ask specific questions related to key issues. When you're working with reflectives, then you need to behave in a different way. So this would mean be prompt and organized. No nonsense, business-like approach. Show proof and documentation. Never pressure them to make a quick decision because they need time to reflect. And what about supportives? Well, with supportives, try to build a social relationship. Listen carefully. Be professional and, take a friendly approach. Offer personal assurances and support. Be patient. Avoid conflict if possible. So, what we've learned today is, we looked at these continuums in terms of sociability and dominance, and we've looked at these different communication styles, and really it's to try and understand the communication style being adopted by different people, and then to act accordingly in that way, and to communicate with them in like manner, in a certain way, so that you have a degree of empathy and they actually understand you, so you have a form of good communication rather than someone getting irritated with you. So I feel it's very, very important to understand these styles and where people sit, so that you can adapt your behavior accordingly to get the best results. So thank you today from Mr. Tan.